The Chicago Bulls are heading into training camp with their roster pretty much set, but we do have a couple of position battles and rotation battles in training camp that we can figure out. We're going to talk about those position battles and how they could come up. We're also going to talk about the possibility of the Chicago Bulls being able to move Lonzo Ball's contract, which I once thought would be an impossibility. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize. You guys can follow me right off the top at CEO Haize. That's CEO Haize. More importantly, follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. Make sure you guys also check out the rest of the Chi-Town Sports Central Network family of shows that all the links are down in the description. We cover the White Sox, the Cubs, the Blackhawks, everything, the Bears, the Chicago Sky. Every single Chicago team is represented. We're working on getting a Fire show out. So if you're a fan of the Chicago Fire and want to start a podcast, go ahead and hit us up. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. So, we've talked a lot about the roster, and, like on yesterday's episode, I've kind of talked about how I would like to see the offense kind of adapt a new play style to kind of better fit what we have now here on this roster. And it's something I've really been calling for a couple of years now with this roster, just a few tweaks to the offensive side of the ball. Make sure you guys go and check out that video if you're interested in hearing that. But we want to talk about some of the position battles that we have coming into training camp. While we don't have a lot, our lineup and rotations are pretty much set, at least on paper. But we do have a couple of battles that we can expect. Now, we have probably front runners for those starting positions, but we're going to talk about them a little bit here. And we're going to start off right at the one, and that is the point guard position. Now, while I have been pretty sure and confident that Jevon Carter is going to end up being the starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls team, it's not as clear cut. And much like last season, which we came into preseason and Billy Donovan really let the play in preseason dictate who won that starting point guard position, we could have a similar battle this season. Now, a lot of people like me expect Jevon Carter to be that starting point guard. You also have the Bulls fans that want to see Kobe White get another shot to be that starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls. And I will say this, he's probably more equipped and adapt to be that than what he was at any point of his career, even when he was our starting point guard, with the growth that he's had and things outside of scoring in the game. But then you also have potentially Alex Caruso to make his case for that starting position as well. Now, I'm leaving Ayo Dosunmu off that list currently right now because I just don't think with the play that Ayo Dosunmu had that he's gonna really have a chance to earn that starting point guard role. Again, I think this is going to be a year of Ayo. He's going to have to fight for minutes, and we actually have him in another section that we have down below, and players are going to have to fight for a spot in the rotation. But so that it really comes down to those three players for me: Jevon Carter, Kobe White, Alex Caruso, right? And they all have their pluses and their minuses. Well, of course, when you look at Jevon Carter, a defensive monster, he brings in also three-point shooting. Has been a consistent three-point shooter over his whole NBA career. That percentage has basically been the same whether he was playing with Giannis, without Giannis, on a different team. His three-point shooting has been fairly consistent. Now, one of the biggest downsides with Jevon Carter, at least by what we've seen from him so far in his career, he's not the greatest facilitator, right? Not a bad facilitator, but he's never had career or even season assist totals that really pop out the stat sheet at you. Now, that is because he's played with very ball dominant players his whole entire career, so there could be some of that there. But keep in mind, I think for his career, Jevon Carter only averages about 1.7 assists per game. Last year being the second highest of his career with 2.4. He did have a season in Milwaukee in 2021-22 where he averaged 2.5 assists per game, but has just never been a high assist guy. And I talked about on yesterday's episode and talking about the offense, how important having a facilitator could be for the play style that I want to see the Chicago Bulls play. Now, we know that may not be the case. They may not play that play style, especially with Billy Donovan being the head coach. But I do think you have to look at that as probably one of the biggest maybe negatives on Jevon Carter as far as being that starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls. He's just never been a huge facilitator. Now, keep in mind, Pat Bev, we look like a much better team with Pat Bev out there. I like to compare Jevon Carter and Pat Bev. And Pat Bev has never been a super high assist guy either, but he did average way more assists than what Jevon Carter has done over his career. So But you look at Patrick Beverley with the Chicago Bulls last season, or overall last season, 2.9 assists that he averaged. With the Chicago Bulls specifically, though, he averaged 3.5 assists. So if Javon Carter can up that assist game a little bit more, again, being a starting point guard, he could probably get to those similar numbers as a Pat Bev did in this system. So that could work out in his favor. Kobe White, we already know. Kobe White has improved as a two-way player. Defensively, his dribbling has improved as well. His weak side defense, his awareness is much better than what it's been at any other point in his career. And he has the scoring upside that neither one of the other guys on this list have, right? We know that Kobe White can be a outright scorer. He can shoot the ball, right? And now a renewed ability to put the ball on the floor, get to the rim a little bit more. We've just seen Kobe White just refine his game considerably last season, and that scoring coming on a lot for the second half of the season for Kobe White. And so a lot of Bulls fans, especially with the contract that he's gotten, are calling for Kobe White to get an opportunity to be that starting point guard. And I do think he's going to come in to training camp with the opportunity, right? Now, some of the downsides on Kobe White as far as that goes is Kobe White just isn't a point guard to me, right? He can play point guard, but Kobe White isn't just a straightforward point. He's a guard that can come off the bench. He can change the pace, and I still do think that ultimately Kobe White's best opportunity on this team is being that sixth man, because everything can go through him at that time. If you throw him in the starting lineup, the ball's going to be out of his hands a lot. Not to say that he can't learn to be an off-ball scorer as well, but it's just I think that you take away some of the biggest positives from Kobe White. And I think, yeah, starting Kobe White with this lineup, it's a great and amazing 2K lineup. But when you look at the balance of a basketball game and team, you need some scoring punch off the bench. And Kobe White has the best opportunity to bring that as well. Now, again, you guys know I'm not against fighting against my own argument at all. As a starter, only started 2 games last season for the Chicago Bulls. He averaged 16 points per game, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. Again, very small sample size, only 2 games in that. And then when you look at his post-All-Star game, right, even coming off the bench, that scoring drastically improved. He shot the ball 49% from the field after the All-Star break, 41% before. He shot the ball 41% from three-point range, taking more threes post-All-Star break than what he did before. Pre-All-Star break, he shot the ball 35% from 3. He also averaged 4.5 assists per game post-All-Star break. That's coming off the bench. So Kobe White was a drastically improved player in every facet of the game at post-All-Star break. And I think that, to me, I want to see Kobe White come off the bench. But, hey, he's going to make a case. He's already said it. He wants to start. He's going to make his own case. And then Alex Caruso, right? Alex Caruso is the guy that it's like a safety valve for head coach Billy Donovan. He feels confident in what Alex Caruso brings. Defensive nightmare, right? Alex Caruso, he's a terror on the defensive side for opposing teams. Those defensive metrics are, you cannot deny them. The Bulls also are a much better team when Alex Caruso is on the floor, because he actually moves without the ball, right? He actually will cut. He'll follow up his shots, right? And that's why you saw him play power forward, which, he's going to be on in that conversation as well, because Billy Donovan's the head coach. But so those are the 3. And I think that's going to be a fun position battle to watch and see how these players perform in the preseason to kind of see what the best lineups in rotation are. Now, next up is the power forward position. And you have P. Will, Torrey Craig, and Alex Caruso. Again, not that I want to see Alex Caruso play starting power forward. I don't want to see that at all. But I can't throw it outside the realm of possibility, because it's the Billy Donovan coach team. So with that said, P. Will, we already know. Least scored on player in isolation last season. Defensively, the Bulls' best three-point shooter as well last season. The 3-and-D is legit when it comes to Patrick Williams, even though some Bulls fans will act like Patrick Williams hasn't done anything at the NBA level. He has improved, right? And so the biggest question with P. Will, though, is that you don't get a consistent output from P. Will. There are going to be some games, of course, where he takes players off the dribble, where he shoots the ball. There are going to be some games where he's more passive and he passes out. Really, it comes down to, this should be Patrick Williams' position to lose, right? It should be his position. But his mindset, his mentality, you can't necessarily bet on it, and I guess we'll see. Torrey Craig is the next one up. Consistently defensively, had his best three-point shooting last year as a volume three-point shooter as well. And when you look at why that may overlap and come over for the Chicago Bulls, is the fact that he was kind of just a guy in the system last year, right? Yeah, they didn't use him as much in the playoffs, and I want to be fair in evaluating that. But when you look at Torrey Craig, you're going to get a consistent level of effort from Torrey Craig. He's used to playing with being a role player with other big, high-volume, ball-dominant players as well. Torrey Craig is going to make a case at being 6'7", 222 pounds to be the starting power forward for the Chicago Bulls team. Now, I hope that P. Will does not lose this position. Let me be clear. I hope that P. Will plays and performs in a way in training camp, in preseason, that he is handedly the starting power forward for the Chicago Bulls next season. But you got to also look at Torrey Craig. And I think you cannot overlook just what it's like to have a veteran that you can bet on consistently. 39% shooting from three-point range last season. He's a 34% career three-point shooter, taking 2.6 per game. So, again, those are things that you can look at and say, as a starter last year, he started 60 games for the Phoenix Suns last year, and in those 60 games, 8 points per game. He shot the ball 39% from three-point range, 43% overall from the field. He took 3.5 three-pointers per game as well as a starter. He also, as a starter, had 5.9 rebounds per game, 1.6 assists, right under a block per game, and right under a steal per game as well. Only 1 turnover per game. So while that scoring output is never going to be huge for Torrey Craig, right? But he showed enough as a starter last season in not a similar system, but in a similar role in which he's just going to be trusted to take those open shots, that there could be a conversation made for there. And as far as Alex Caruso, like I said, he's on the list because Billy Donovan is our head coach. So, we'll see that. Now, the next tier that I want to talk about is players that are going to be fighting for a spot in the rotation next year. We know Billy Donovan tends to like to go 9 deep during the season, right? And our starting 5 pretty much set. We kind of have the players there. The 2 that are out are going to be definitely on those benches. So we kind of know the top 7 that are going to be in the Bulls rotation next year. And so for the rest of those 2, right, it's going to come down to a Dalen Terry, right? An Ayo Dosunmu, they're going to be able to earn a role. A Julian Phillips, can they earn a role on this team? The Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, Nikola Vucevic, Alex Caruso, Javon Carter, they're locked in, right? We know the Andre Drummonds, if I didn't say his name, we know that they're going to have a role on this team. Andre Drummond is even one that hopefully is going to play a little bit more consistently than what he played last season for the Bulls. But again, those other players are going to be fighting for a spot in the rotation if they can earn it. Ayo Dosunmu has probably the leg up just because of what he's shown defensively over his career, but you cannot overlook that this may be the year where Billy Donovan wants to see what Dalen Terry can bring, even if it is just defensively, right? Ayo Dosunmu brings more offensively than Dalen Terry, but I think that it's not you want to try to start refining and working in Dalen Terry. So that, and then as far as Julian Phillips, I think he's going to be G League bound, and earn a lot Bitham as well as another player that I do think with his skill set, if he shows some things in training camp, he's probably going to play in the preseason. If they possibly can look at him and say, oh no, he's ready for the game, I do think that they're going to be fighting for spots in that rotation as well. Now, the next tier and the last tier of players on this list are going to be players that are Windy City Bulls bound, and that is Justin Lewis, Onuralp Bitim, Julian Phillips, Adama Sanago. They're going to go to the G League. Probably maybe Carlik Jones as well. Even though if we guarantee his contract, he's guaranteed. So I don't know if they're going to be able to force him to go down there to the G League. But our Windy City Bulls team is going to be another team that's exciting and fun to watch. The 3 players that we have on 2-way contracts in Justin Lewis, Onuralp Bitim, and Adama Sanago, I can't wait to see how they perform in the G League. Then you throw in Julian Phillips as well as a rookie. He's probably going to get a lot of assignments down there in the Windy City Bulls. So that's kind of the camp battles that we're looking for, and players that are going to be fighting for spots in that rotation if they can make it. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. All right, let's get into the next topic before we get into the mailbag, and that is just the possibility that the Bulls could move Lonzo Ball's contract. I was very vocal last season. Anytime somebody brought up, let's move Lonzo Ball, to say, ain't nobody taking Lonzo Ball's contract. And while I do still think that is going to be the same sentiment for the majority of this season, Lonzo Ball is an expiring contract next season. So I don't think that it's outside the realm of possibility, if it's a huge deal, that the Bulls maybe could move. Now, it would have to be parts of something else, and it'd have to be a team that is just using it to match salary, that may be tanking or not worrying about it, right? But I do think that when you look at the rise of contracts in the NBA, the fact that a $20 million contract is only a few million above the mid-level exception, especially heading into next year, that there's a more of a possibility than ever. I'm still going to put it as a slim. I'll put it at a 20% chance that the Bulls are able, between this trade deadline and next offseason, that the Bulls are able to move Lonzo Ball's contract. But here's what I'll say. It's not at all, it doesn't look like as much of a long shot as what it looked like before. I still think it's pretty doubtful, but I do think that there's a chance that they could. So, let me know what you guys think on that down below. Not really anything too in-depth there. As you look forward at the Bulls and how they've kind of set up And I've talked a lot about how the Bulls are set up to be buyers at the trade deadline if they choose to be. They'd have to be willing to kind of give up on some things. Lonzo Ball's contract could be a factor in that as well. Maybe not a huge factor, but it could be a factor. All right, let's go ahead and get into the mailbag for today. We got 2 voicemails for today. The first one is first-time caller. This one's from Big Rob.
What's going on? This is Big Rob from the West Side of Chicago. Many blessings to you and everything that you're doing, and I'm always watching your show, so I'm a big fan of it. And, again, many blessings to you. My question to you would be, when you see the layout of the roster and you see that we are more guard heavy in the rotation, and I know minutes are going to be strict, do you believe that not now, but maybe during the trade deadline or even during the summer, do you see trades happening that would make more sense? And if so, who is the first person that's on the chopping block that's not named DeMar or Zach that you can see probably being moved? Again, appreciate you taking this time to listen to this. Keep on doing what you're doing. Always going to be a big fan and a big supporter, of that. Many blessings. Thank you.
First name to be traded outside of DeMar or Zach. That's a great question. I think Alex Caruso is probably the next one up who's going to net you the most back. Ayo Dosunmu is definitely a threat to be moved as well. I think when you look at his deal, and if he doesn't crack this rotation, that there could be a team that is interested in Ayo Dosunmu, and then we could see him moved. But those are the ones that I think. You have the young players in Dalen Terry, Patrick Williams, Julian Phillips like that who have easily movable deals, but I just don't think AK is going to be apt to move the young players right now. I think he's more so going to try to develop those players now. I think everything that we're seeing that this Bulls team is going to be really keen on development, which may also remove Ayo Dosunmu from being on that list. So I'll say Alex Caruso, and I'll say that because if Ayo Dosunmu does get back to being that defensive beast that he was and flashing a little bit of that offensive potential, it could. I'm not saying that I want to see Alex Caruso go because I don't, but it could in the right deal depending on what the Bulls are getting back. If they're getting back something that they feel absolutely puts them at that next tier in the Eastern Conference, maybe Alex Caruso is that next name that gets called up. Hey, you guys let me know what you think on that one down below. I'm off my rocker, but I think it'd be Alex Caruso. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Kelder, the casual.
Hey, man, this is Kelder, the not casual. I hear that, not casual. And look, man, you've almost got me, convinced on the Bulls, okay? I really, really always did like Javon Carter and Torrey Craig. I'm very happy they're on the Bulls. Kobe White, I didn't like him since in high school even, because he's from my area, and I don't know why I didn't like him, but he played against, my school that I was working at and dominated, so I didn't like him. And then he went to Carolina, which is an evil school compared to the much superior Duke. He's winning me over. Ayo, love Caruso. Drummond's a really fun guy to watch. The problem is this. I don't like the top three. You know this about me, but I don't like Zach LaVine. It's not even rational anymore, but I would be happy with some, Gatorade cooler traded for him. Not the white Gatorade. That's what's gross, but any other kind of Gatorade I would take for Zach LaVine. Never really been the DeMar DeRozan guy. I really do think he's overrated, and I think Vucevic or Bucci compromises too much what you're going to want to do on your defense and offense because he's so slow. But that's it for me. I think they did a good job. He still can't draft for crap, and Dalen Terry is not going to be any good ever. But you kind of get me. But what do you think about the core? Do you think this top three, are they there just to stay respectable, or are they there to actually, try to do something? I look forward to hearing you. Doing my research so I can be called Kelder the casual killer. Bye.
All right, first, so let me just say, Brian's becoming one of my favorite callers. So I throw him some fun. But as far as not liking the Bulls core three, here's what I'll say. I like the Bulls core three individually. I like them as people. I don't like how Billy Donovan uses them necessarily. I think Vooch, I know that you are doubtful on Zach, but when you have a player that can be top 10 in the league in scoring, that's a piece that most good teams and franchises can build around, right? And I don't mean build around as far as like him being the number one guy if we ever get to a championship level, but I mean build around as far as like that adds versatility in how you can flesh out your roster. And so that, and then Vooch, you can say all you want about Vooch being slow, whatever. It does not stop him from being top 10 at every statistical category for his position, even defensively. That's it. So when you have a player that can be and get you a double-double every single night and he's on a reasonable deal, I look at the lack of creative utilization of this core three. Now, DeMar is the one that I've always been consistent on. If I'm going to move one, it'd be DeMar because of the age, because of the expiring contract part of it. But I even think then, if you support this core three, because it's not a big three, this core three a little bit better with better roster construction, this could be a team that does go to the first or second round, right? But we have to do that and develop the younger players on top of that. So here's what I'll say. I don't hate the core three like you do. I don't love them and think like these are the three players that there's going to get us to the mountaintop. I don't think that either. It's somewhere in between on that is what I personally feel. And I think we're going to be in for a fun season. I think that we've improved enough in the margins that hopefully it better supports the core three. And we'll end up seeing how it pays off. It's really up to Billy Donovan as well. He has a lot to do as a head coach, a lot more than what he's done so far if he's going to make this core successful. That's my opinion. You guys can let me know what you think down below. But that's it. That's my time for today. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, we'll leave a text message and our voicemail for our mailbag. The number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See Red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.